Donald Trump's historically unpopular VP pick now seems to understand just how unpopular he is and that his presence may put the entire campaign at risk. We have newly leaked comments from JD Vance made at a private event with donors where he details how VP Harris stepping up as the nominee has hurt the entire Trump campaign. And these only confirm comments that VP Harris has sent the campaign into a frenzy within 1 week of campaigning, and this comes at a critical time as new resurfaced videos come out of JD Vance just saying absolutely nasty things towards women about them having no stake in the country if they have no children, them being childless cat ladies, even that women who are in abusive marriages should stay in those marriages. I mean, the list goes on, but let's break down this article. Leave a like on this video if you appreciate what I do. This Washington Post article reads, Vance tells donors Harris change was a, quote, sucker punch at odds with Trump campaign. Quote, the bad news is that Kamala Harris does not have the same baggage as Joe Biden, Trump's running mate acknowledged at a private event, and that is quite the understatement. President Biden's age was the entire focus of the Trump campaign. I mean, the whole campaign was made to harp on Biden's age, and now they have to completely pivot the campaign, and it seems like they're in a frenzy. Again, VP Harris has been campaigning for almost a week on the dot, and the Trump campaign is already in an absolute frenzy. They don't know how to repivot, and like JD Vance himself said, it seems like this was all a massive sucker punch. So the article reads, the Republican VP nominee, Senator JD Vance of Ohio, privately told donors that running against VP Harris instead of Biden made the race more challenging. An admission at odds with the Donald Trump campaign's public projections of confidence. So JD Vance is already off message. His message is already conflicting with Donald Trump's, and I know that Donald Trump is going to be so angry that JD Vance made these comments and they leaked because it makes the campaign look completely weak. Donald Trump is there lying, saying that JD Vance wasn't a bad pick, and I'm pretty confident that JD Vance is the one telling the truth because he doesn't know yet how to manipulate the media like Donald Trump, so he just goes and says it how it is. I know for a fact Donald Trump is angry though. Quote, all of us were hit with a little bit of a political sucker punch, Vance said about Biden's withdrawal on July 21st, according to a recording of his remarks at a Saturday fundraiser at Golden Valley, Minnesota. Quote, the bad news is that Kamala Harris does not have the same baggage as Joe Biden because whatever we might have to say, Kamala is a lot younger, and Kamala Harris is obviously not struggling in the same ways that Joe Biden did, said JD Vance, and again, that is quite the understatement. Not only is VP Harris not struggling, but she's actually thriving. Within her first week, she's raised over $200 million. She's mobilized almost 200,000 people and quadrupled her followings across all social medias. So to say that Kamala Harris is not struggling is an understatement. Publicly, the Trump campaign has insisted that Harris replacing Biden at the top of the ticket has not changed the race, arguing that she shares responsibility for public dissatisfaction with Biden's leadership. Vance told reporters on July 22nd, a day after Biden dropped out, that there was no difference in running against Harris versus Biden, but they have quickly found out that that is not true whatsoever. There is a massive difference, and none of this is to undermine President Biden's great work. Harris actually shares a lot of that work in the form of legislation they've passed, but I'm just saying, if we're going to be objective, the VP Harris campaign has already created a lot more enthusiasm and energy than the President Biden campaign was able to with months and months of work. Quote, I don't think the political calculus changes at all, Vance said. We're running against Joe Biden's open border, Kamala Harris's open border. Kamala Harris supported the Green New Scam. I hate that phrase. Kamala Harris, frankly, covered Joe Biden even though it was obvious he was mentally incompetent for a very long time. So that is the obvious line of attack they're going with. But if they want to attack VP Harris on Biden's legislative agenda, then they should feel free to do that because Biden has passed some of the most historic legislation in modern history when it comes to climate change, when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to education reform. President Biden has done all of this because he is so good at reaching across the aisle and being able to pass stuff with bipartisan support. As a result of Joe Biden's 50 years of experience in government, he has built these relationships and knows the inner workings of Washington like the back of his hand, so that allows him to pass all of this legislation. So to bring it back to my point, if they want to attack VP Harris on President Biden's successful record, they should go ahead. Trump advisor Jason Miller said in a July 22nd Fox News interview, quote, Democrats are a bit of jumping out of the frying pan into the fire, and they may have gotten gotten rid of one problem with Joe Biden, but they've inherited a whole new problem with Kamala Harris. Trump himself has expressed nostalgia for running against Biden. Quote, "He will always be my first choice. So sweet, so sweet." And at the same time, dismissed Harris as, quote, "worse than Joe," but we know for a fact that is Donald Trump just coping. I've been watching a lot of Trump and JD Vance rallies over this past week, and a lot of times they just use the exact same attack they would use towards President Biden verbatim, but they just switch out the name and put VP Harris's name in instead. I've even heard them switch up the pronouns. They were talking about VP Harris, but then said he because they thought they were talking about President Biden. They're just so incredibly used to attacking President Biden. Vance, though, gave a different assessment for donors on Saturday ahead of joining Trump at a rally in St. Cloud, Minnesota. He said Harris was less known than Trump or Biden, so Republicans would have to work to shape people's opinions of her. Quote, "We have a very unique opportunity, but also a very unique challenge, because let's be honest, 10 days ago, the two candidates running for president, everybody had an opinion about him. Love him or hate him, everybody has an opinion about Donald Trump and Joe Biden after the past 8 years, Vance said. Quote, "But Kamala Harris, people don't really know, and that is actually a benefit for us, because when it comes to somebody like Hillary Clinton, I mean, the right-wing media had spent decades, actual decades, shaping the perception of Hillary Clinton as some deep state ghoul who just hated everybody. And of course, that wasn't true with Hillary at all. She's a good person. But when it comes to Kamala, we don't have those decades of attacks, and that works to our benefit." Vance said the campaign would try to define Harris based on past positions, which he said included opposing fracking, praising the defund the police movement, and supporting the decriminalization of unauthorized border crossings. The Harris campaign says she won't ban fracking. She denounced the defund the police after becoming Biden's running mate, and the current administration opposes decriminalizing border crossings. So if Donald Trump, hell, if JD Vance can say that Trump is America's Hitler and then change his position 8 years later, then I think VP Harris can change her positions on fracking within 4 years. I mean, come on. At the fundraiser, Vance recounted asking Trump senior advisor Susie Wiles how the race had changed, and he said she answered that she was more confident Trump would win because people like Trump's policies better than Biden's. 2 national polls taken since Biden dropped out showed Trump and Harris within the margin of error, erasing Trump's earlier leads over Biden in those same surveys. Vance spokesman Will Martin said Monday in a statement, quote, "Poll after poll shows President Trump leading VP Harris as voters become aware of her weak, failed, and dangerously liberal agenda. Her far-left ideas are even more radioactive than Joe Biden, particularly in the key swing states that will decide the election like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin." I just want to reiterate that Kamala Harris is not far left by any means. I mean, the farthest left people on the spectrum in America would be like your Bernie Sanders, your AOCs. And I wouldn't call these people radical, but objectively, they're on the farther left of the spectrum. VP Harris isn't even as far left as Bernie Sanders. I mean, she's like right where Joe Biden is on the spectrum. Pretty clearly a progressive, center-left liberal who wants to push this country forward without radically reshaping our institutions. And Donald Trump always says in one breath she is a radical, defund the police person, but then in the next breath that she wants to lock up everybody in sight. So which is it? Does she want to lock everybody up, or is she so radical that she wants to defund the police and abolish prisons? Either way, if you guys enjoyed the video, if you appreciate what I do, make sure you leave a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button. Most importantly, have a great day yourself.